Hi guys, Adrian Kale here, and it was absolutely wonderful to meet you, and I want to thank you again. Thank you for coming on this beautiful journey. You're really going to love this NLP journey, and as you can see already, we have a lot of unexpected surprises and a lot of awesomeness waiting for you. Now, rather than covering what we went through in the session, in the last video, we gave you some introduction to the course and what to expect. And as I said at the end, in this video, I'm going to talk about an introduction to what is NLP, where it came from, and perhaps some of the core values. As usual, I'll be using the format model. Why? Because it's important that we use a standard training for formatting the unconscious brain. But this particular session today, covering what is NLP, where it came from, and the core values, this is particularly important for you to understand the big picture around NLP. It'll help you explain it to other people. It'll help you get deeper insight. And to tell you the truth, I think it's cool. I think it's cool. I love reading about the history of NLP. I love reading and learning more and more. So I'm sure you're going to love it as well. And perhaps like me, you'll become a bit more of a self-proclaimed NLP geek. You become a bit more of a personal development fan who loves getting deeper and deeper into how the magic happens. So with that, we're going to cover what is NLP, and I'm going to pick up a couple of books here. I've just got a couple of books here. I lend out so many books, it's hilarious. So I have my own NLP library, of course, and here are two of my favorites. This is actually about the foundations of NLP. This one here, The Origins of NLP, written by a handful of people that were at the start of NLP. Great comprehensive read, absolutely wonderful for understanding the history and good for those learning NLP for the first time. The Origins of Neuro-Linguistic Programming. This is written by two guys, but as I said, it has a pile more. If you want to look for it, John Grinder, Frank Pucelik. And this one was quite a surprise. I just found this book maybe 3 or 4 months ago. It's by a guy called Terrence McClendon. He does hypnosis, and he was actually a few hours from here, up in Cairns. So I was excited to find this book. It's called The Wild Days. This is about NLP 1972 to 1981. Pretty short read in one day. And this is just like, this is for the real NLP geeks. But this shared more insight. So with this, I've got a deeper understanding of the roots of NLP, which I'm going to share with you today. So what is NLP? What is NLP? I'm actually going to pick up Richard Bandler's book. Richard Bandler is one of the co-creators, and Richard Bandler's books, to me, they spell out what is NLP. This is one of Richard's books, Using Your Brain for a Change. Using your brain for a change. Quite simply, Richard Bandler talks about NLP being user's manual for the brain. An ability to master your own states by running your own brain. Another thing you might hear is NLP is an attitude with a lot of curiosity and a methodology, primarily modeling, that leaves behind a trail of techniques. So I'll make that simpler. NLP is an attitude and a methodology that leaves behind a trail of techniques. I'd like to say that NLP is an attitude and a methodology that leaves behind a trail of techniques, strategies, and ways of being absolutely dynamic. Now, NLP, neuro referring to the mind or the brain, particularly regarding to how states of mind or body can affect our communications, our behavior. NLP teaches us a structural way of viewing the mind and body, the states, mental maps, because the mental maps are also in our neurology. And our neuro affects the way we behave. A neuro-linguistic. Linguistic meaning language or meaning. See, when we take in information, we end up storing it, and when we access it, we put language to it. When we talk to ourselves, talk with others, there is that language component. Neuro-linguistic programming. Programming being sets or patterns of neuro-linguistics. Simple. I like to think of NLP as like the operating system for the brain. And you know, there are many different operating systems out there. In fact, we have some standard operating systems, but you know, some operating systems and some computers are just finely tuned and go really well. So rather than looking at the content of what's on the computer or the content of what's in the memory or the content of people's goals, NLP focuses on the process. It focuses on the process, the structure, rather than what's inside. That's why when we start, we talk about getting some goals, but then we clearer, maybe making those goals bigger, brighter, and brighter. And as we just change the goals from small to big to bright to clear and large, and maybe add sound, suddenly we feel a pull. We feel a pull towards our goals, and that's all done by changing the process or the structure around it rather than changing the content. Whereas if you go to get advice from someone, you sit down and get advice from someone, they generally talk to you about what you want to do, and they get really involved in the content. Or you see a therapist and they talk about the content and tell me more, why. That's the big difference right there. We're not so worried about the content, we're worried about the structure. Now with that, if someone has a really effective process or a structure that they use to achieve goals fast, wouldn't it be wonderful to look at how they did that? Wouldn't it be wonderful to look at Olympic athletes, Olympic gold athletes, and rather than looking at like how do they move their legs, you know, how do they think? How do they think? How do they do that? How do they train so hard? What do they tell themselves? How do they plan? Okay, so we could look down the road at a young amateur athlete, you know, going for his run, and we can look at what he does and we can critique him on his running. But we can also talk to someone like Usain Bolt and get into his head. Now, if we can get into his head and we can take some of that, which we call modeling, and share that to the young athlete. I used to love playing basketball. Wasn't any good, but I like playing. Now, I can watch Michael Jordan's videos, but really, if I really sat down and watched Michael Jordan videos, really watched him and started to bounce the ball at the same speed as him and bounce it in the same place, and if I really got into Michael Jordan, like really picture myself stepping into Michael Jordan, we would be able to perform our moves more and more like Michael Jordan. So modeling is one of the key components of NLP. I mean, that's how we get these neuro-linguistic maps. This is how we understand people's minds. Kids, babies, young kids, they model. I, along with any young basketballer in the 80s and 90s, would have looked at Michael Jordan and wished we could be like him. It's just in NLP, we go further. We take the modeling process further. And once we learn Michael Jordan's magic, we got to test to make sure it works. Then we got to start teaching it to other people. Now, if we can extract Michael Jordan's magic and start sharing it with other people and they can start doing the magic as well, then we have a bunch of tools We call them the Michael Jordan tools. And we could have the Michael Jordan strategy or the Michael Jordan strategies. Okay? Now, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, they didn't study Michael Jordan. They started by studying Fritz Perls, Gestalt therapist. Fritz Perls, Gestalt therapist. Gestalt therapy was widely known. And this young gentleman called Richard Bandler, long hair, a bit of a hippie. Richard Bandler was actually working for a company, I think it's Palo Alto Books, and Richard Bandler was actually transcribing the works of this man called Fritz Perls. See, this is before NLP was created. Richard Bandler was watching videos of Fritz Perls, watching, listening, and transcribing. Much the same as a young teenager watching Michael Jordan, but watching Michael Jordan really closely. Richard Bandler was watching Fritz Perls and was transcribing his sessions. Now, he wasn't paid to watch, he was paid to transcribe. Richard, being interested in how things work, would watch Fritz Perls and transcribe. And through transcribing Fritz Perls' work, he actually learned how to do Fritz's work. And Richard Bandler became good at Fritz's work. Richard Bandler started teaching Gestalt therapy at university. While he was there, he wasn't a professor, he was a student. So while he was at university, he started teaching Gestalt therapy. I think that's really cool. So his job, Richard's job, transcribing Fritz Perls' work, he learns how Fritz Perls does his work. But you know what? He starts recognizing patterns. See, while he's transcribing the work, he's recognizing what's important and what isn't. What's important, and what isn't. What's important, what isn't. And he transcribes the work, but for his own copy, I don't know if he had his own copy, but for his own copy, he would have been able to cross out the irrelevant sentences, and he actually had a far more effective way because Richard could tell what wasn't so important and what was. Richard could see the patterns. So when Mr. Fritz Perls would teach, there were things that Fritz Perls wasn't aware of, and he would teach. But through Richard's transcriptions, Richard actually got better at Gestalt therapy than the very man that created it and better than his students. I think that's cool. But you know what makes this really cool is, as I said, is Richard started to teach this at university. And Richard had a partner. His partner was Frank. You'll hear about Frank in the Origins of NLP book. Richard had a partner, Frank. Frank, like myself, was a veteran. He came back from deployment, and he was a bit messed up in the head. Poor Frank was a bit messed up in the head. And he was looking for his own answers. Him and his lovely girlfriend, Leslie, would help Richard. And Richard would run the Gestalt classes, and Frank would help. Together, they would run these Gestalt classes. And Richard got better and better at teaching it and creating the change in his students. Okay, so Richard was teaching the students, the teachers were getting results, and this is really interesting because these guys are getting better results than the Fritz Perls and his own students. Richard Bandler is now starting to do it. Of course, this is in the early days, so they weren't getting, they weren't as established as Fritz Perls, who already had schools after him. It was like Fritz Perls had an establishment, lots of schools already, and Richard Bandler's just a young university student. Young and agile. You see, sometimes being small has its advantages. Sometimes not being known or being successful puts you in the right place. So Richard was able to transcribe, and with Frank, they were able to start teaching classes in Gestalt work. Amazing, you know. Now, at the same time, there's another gentleman. And let me just mark this for you here. I'm just going to put, I know you won't see this too clearly with the camera, but so we got a Richard Bandler as a primary one, and it was Fritz's Perls work. Fritz's Perls work. So Richard Bandler, long-haired hippie, with his partner from the military, the veteran. They were teaching Fritz Perls Gestalt therapy. Yeah. Now Richard went over and spoke to this young university professor, John Grinder. John Grinder was also an amazing man. I got to study with Richard and John. Spent, I think, almost a month with John over in Portugal. Amazing. Now, John Grinder is ex-military as well. Now, so John Grinder and Frank Pucelik are both veterans, and they both have a direct attitude. Let's get results. And so does Richard. All three of these men. Results. Let's get results. Let's get things done. Now, Richard approached John about coming to see his work, and John's like, no. But Richard kept asking John to come down and watch the students. Richard kept asking John, and John's like, no, I'm not going to come down and watch the students. You know, I'm busy. Richard would come, John would be, no, I'm busy. Richard would come, John would be, no. And eventually, after much persistence, John said, all right. And John came down with Richard and Frank and saw and watched their class. I'm pretty impressed. It was pretty impressive. What these young men were doing was very impressive. It was very impressive. And you know what? I have spent time doing some special stuff in the war over in Czech Republic, Germany. You know, sometimes I was over in these countries and I was acting as a European foreigner, but I was actually, you know, American intel or whatever. As a linguist, I was, you know, I've got some interesting stuff that might be of value to you guys. I know some stuff that would be very interesting for you guys. So John Grinder spent time, you know, in the war learning linguistics and multiple languages and had an ability to penetrate deeply inside, behind enemy lines. And just for like shits and giggles, John Grinder went down to Tanzania and joined a Maasai group. I joined a Maasai group as well. Different story. John Grinder came down and met a Maasai group and spent time learning the language, learning the behavior, learning the gestures, learning to mimic, and was completely accepted in a Maasai tribe. You know, just for shits and giggles. So John Grinder, the complete linguist, he was able to see things from a different angle. And the three of them, John, Richard, and Frank Pucelik, they all partnered up together with this Gestalt therapy stuff. And John is like amazed. I mean, like, this man, Fritz Perls, has this establishment in Gestalt therapy, and this young university student, Richard and Frank, have learned to do that magic and are able to teach those students in that much time. That's impressive. Okay. And they partnered up. Richard and John continued developing and investigating and learning more. It was interesting. Frank's main role was running the classes. Now, there's another gentleman called Gregory Bateson. Gregory Bateson, Tony Robbins speaks about Gregory Bateson a bit. I've got one of his books over there. His book is like that fat. It took me like 4 or 5 months to read it. Oh, was it worth it? I'm not quite sure. But anyway, Gregory Bateson and his partner Margaret Mead, they did amazing work back in the day. They did trips to Bali and Papua New Guinea. You can look up Margaret Mead Bali dance, and they were looking at hypnosis and trance work in Bali, like back in the 40s. Amazing work. Anyway, Gregory Bateson, he's on the he's at the front of a couple of their books. You know, he writes a couple of their own entry points. Gregory Bateson, another amazing man. Along with some amazing people before the NLP days. Gregory Bateson suggested to these guys that they check out this lady, Virginia Satir. Virginia Satir, absolutely amazing. She's known as the mother of family therapy. Virginia Satir, I'm just going to write here. So we got Fritz Perls, then we got Virginia Satir. Might give that a bit of red, a bit of pink. Virginia Satir is an amazing lady who is going around the States giving tours and workshops and teaching people family therapy. She also did an intervention where she had something like 30 long-term unemployed, completely unemployable people. And she worked with them. She had a like once a week meeting with these like 30 unemployed people. And after a short period of time, every single one of the 30 people, including the lady that had like 6 kids, all had jobs. Amazing lady. So Richard and John started to follow Virginia. They started to follow this lady around. They started to follow Virginia and find out how she's so good. Now, her work, Virginia's work, is quite different to Fritz Perls. It's like Virginia's work is like kind of like poking and getting in and listening to a few people and smashing them with a key point or giving them an insight and flipping the script. Absolutely amazing. Where Fritz Perls is more like gentle kind of therapeutic approach. Very different approaches to therapy. Very different approaches. These guys, Fritz Perls and Virginia Satir, they would clash. They would clash. But it turns out they had a lot of things in common. Virginia Satir and Fritz Perls, well, all these guys are geniuses. We're all geniuses. You're a genius. We're all geniuses. Just a matter of what. So Virginia Satir and Fritz Perls, absolutely amazing in their work in the game. Richard Bandler, long hair, he's got a ponytail. Rebel without a cause. Frank, running the groups. Richard Bandler is now transcribing Virginia's work. Richard is now transcribing Virginia's work. And Richard Bandler's got a really good ear. He's a musician, plays guitar. He's got a really good ear. So rather than just hearing the words, he's able to hear the tonality shifts, the pitch shifts, the speed, the rhythm, the tempo. He's able to hear these guys on a whole new level. So rather than just transcribing, he transcribed in a game. He modeled Virginia and he learned the magic of Virginia. And with John Grinder's help, it happened even faster than with Fritz Perls. So Richard's transcribing and learning that, and these guys are following her around the country. They're videoing her, they're watching her, they're like the teenagers watching Michael Jordan, only the university professor and Richard with the long hair. They're watching Virginia Satir and they're completely modeling. They're learning how she does what she does so good. Now they're writing down all the notes, and learning. And the classes are still being run by Frank, his girlfriend Leslie. So as these guys, Richard Bandler, long hair, John Green the professor, they've now moved on to Virginia Satir, and as they've got her work, they're teaching this. They're teaching this stuff and refining and refining and refining and finding the most important points. Then they thought they had it. They thought they had it. Out comes the first book, possibly the second at the same time. Various different covers, but The Structure of Magic. And a hard copy signed by John. The Structure of Magic 1 and 2. These came about, as did the meta model. In fact, these kids that were learning became known as the meta kids. So the meta model, and the meta model you'll learn around week 10. And the meta model was a combination of mainly Virginia's work, and it was just the way she was able to penetrate questions deeply and get inside things. So we've got Virginia Satir modeled, we've got Fritz Perls modeled, we've got the classes going. Small thing, remember Frank and Leslie? Leslie, in the EQ girl, especially if you're interested in EQ, one of Leslie's books, The Emotional Hostage, absolutely amazing. Only here her name is Leslie Cameron-Bandler. Leslie Cameron-Bandler, you see? Leslie and Frank, no, didn't split. Richard Bandler, long-haired guy. Leslie Cameron, hot chicky babe. Ding, 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 ding. Frank left. Leslie and Richard got together. So Leslie is Richard Bandler's new partner. So Leslie, absolutely amazing girl, emotional intelligence. I haven't watched her live. I haven't met her live. But this, for emotional intelligence, the emotional hostage. Leslie Cameron-Bandler. Okay, so they're discovering, and they're the meta kids, Frank's group. Frank's now gone. This group, they're actually writing the books and they're learning the processes, and they're discovering more and more of the magic. They discovered the eye patterns. You know, Richard was apparently went into a shop, bought some cigarettes, and when he came out, when Richard came out with his cigarettes, he got in the car next to John and he said, "People are funny. People are funny. The man in the shop just said, probably a stolen car racing past. We're in Townsend." That's not what they said. Okay, so there was actually moments in the car which are described in some of the books where they realized that that person said, and these guys had breakthroughs, yeah, like complete breakthroughs in technology, just hanging out together while they were chasing Virginia Satir around the country. But wait, there's a bit more. That's the next big step. A man I mentioned before, Gregory Bateson, big thick book, Ecology of Mind. Him and his wife Margaret Mead went over to Papua New Guinea and Bali and these places. Gregory Bateson said, wait, there's more. There's more. There's a man you have to meet. And this man does everything differently. I've written the entries to your book. I love your work. But wait. There's a man that you need to meet out in Arizona. There's a man in the desert you need to meet. Arizona or Phoenix? The desert. There's a man you got to meet. He does everything differently. His name's Milton. Milton Erickson. Dr. Milton Erickson. Everything is backwards. Everything is different. You got to meet him. So now, Sends a little shiver down my spine. Milton Erickson. Whoo! This man is different. This man is off the charts. I think I got one of his. Oh, I just got one of Milton Erickson's books. This is one of his books. Or one of his students. Uncommon Therapy. I love this. Look at the size of that. This is actually by Jay Haley, world-renowned hypnotherapist or hypnosis guy. Uncommon Therapy. Fits in your back pocket. Beautiful book to travel with. So, Mr. Milton Erickson, he does everything different. Different. Now, where Virginia and Fritz Perls would get in and identify the problem, Milton Erickson wouldn't get in at all. In fact, he might even say go up. That's possible. What's possible? What you're thinking is possible. See, Milton Erickson used hypnosis, which was about being vague. That's right. And as you breathe in, and whenever you breathe out next, you will notice your breath naturally going in and out at your own pace. And as you breathe slowly in or out at your own pace, and perhaps you could feel one of your legs, I don't know which one, becoming softer and more relaxed. Which leg becomes deeper relaxed? Milton Erickson had a way of just going abstract and hypnotic, but not just abstract. He would put people into a deep trance all the time. He would do absolutely amazing work. So Milton Erickson is known as the king of hypnosis. But it's so much cooler. The story is so cool. You probably want to get a documentary. It's called Wizard of the Desert. Wizard of the Desert. Milton Erickson documentary. It came out in 2014, I think. It took me 3 years to be able to get it. I actually wrote to the company and they gave me a copy for free. Bless them. They actually gave me a full copy of the documentary for free. Thank you. So Milton Erickson was hypnotic, and rather than going down with the meta model and all these questions going down, Milton was going up, and he was using hypnosis and getting complete opposite. So now John Grinder and Richard Bandler with the long hair, they've developed all these models for getting down and specific, and now they've got this hypnosis guy going up and abstract. It's like the opposite. So they have a whole pile of language patterns to get down and specific, and now a whole pile of language patterns going up and abstract and vague, adding a real dynamic mix. And this is why NLP is so phenomenal, because with this and this, it's good. With this, it's good. With this and this, it's great. But now they've got the opposite. It's like dynamite, right? Just like the old cars, you used to have 3 pedals. Okay, so John Grinder and Richard Bandler, they started working with Milton Erickson and they found out his magic. While they were there, by the way, I just got one book here. They left 2 of the meta kids with Milton. Robert Dilts, there are a couple of his books outside, and Stephen Gilligan. I got to spend about a week with Robert Dilts, but I got to spend about 3 weeks with Stephen Gilligan. So Stephen Gilligan and Robert Dilts were both about 19 when they went there. So these young meta kids went to Milton Erickson, the hypnosis guy, and just stayed there with him. Did they go into trance? Every day. You got to see the documentary. So Stephen Gilligan, absolutely amazing man. You'll see him. He kind of breathes from the belly, very relaxed. Big roomy fan. Irish. I think, yeah, him and Robert are both Irish. A lot of trauma from his past. So Stephen Gilligan's work, absolutely phenomenal. And of course, it's very, very hypnotic. In a lot of my work, you'll see elements of Stephen Gilligan coming out. Stephen Gilligan, Richard Bandler, John Grinder, they're the three I've spent the most time with. Okay, so Richard Bandler and John Grinder, creators of NLP, have successfully modeled and learned the magic of Fritz Perls, Gestalt therapy, Virginia Satir, family therapy, and Dr. Milton Erickson, hypnosis. And they've got the best of all that. See, this is like the Michael Jordan of basketball. This is like the Usain Bolt of running, and like the Thorpe of the swimming world. No, not quite. It's like healthy body, mind, and soul. With these three, they've got this amazing magic of NLP. And they're all the books that I grabbed out for you, but more on the bookshelf. So that's where it came from. That's why it's so cool. Remember, you got Richard Bandler, the long hair, bit of a rebel. John Grinder, university professor, linguist. I guess we can say after this, John Grinder and Richard Bandler went around the country delivering training. They kept delivering training on neuro-linguistic programming. Richard Bandler eventually came out with the name neuro-linguistic programming, but Richard Bandler and John Grinder had a falling out, possibly about women. Possibly. John Grinder's partner, Judith DeLoizer, absolutely beautiful woman. She's got some great stuff too. I think she ended up with Robert Dilts. They run the NLP University over in Santa Cruz, in the Redwood Forest. So John Grinder and Richard Bandler, they had a falling out. Perhaps money, business, whatnot, crazy things going on. And some people say, if these guys are so great, why can't they communicate together? John Grinder and Richard Bandler both have similar answers. These guys communicate to each other very well now. Very well. They ignore each other. They don't talk to each other. And they're both happy with it. They did amazing work. Richard Bandler, by the way, is redoing. He's going to re-release or redo the original books of NLP. He's got a few books coming out. And if you want to look up NLP for parenting, so if you want to look up like excellent parenting models or teaching models, the best NLP book I've seen for teaching is actually, of course, Richard Bandler. Teaching Excellence, Richard Bandler and Kate Benson. I opened up this book, to say the truth, I'm about a third of the way through, and I've just got it sitting there. I am so happy with that third, and I'm going to slowly get more and more into it. So that's a history. So Richard Bandler, John Grinder, that's who they studied. And then we also have the meta kids. The meta kids being the students who were all deep. So with the meta kids, you know, maybe there were 5, maybe then there were 10, then there were 20, and they would all be the gurus and the best in NLP. And of course, Richard and John. Now I'd like to share something else with you. Identity. Who are you? Who's Richard? Richard's a bit of a rebel. He is an amazing listener. He was able to listen to all the rhythm, speed, volume, pitch, tempo, all the nuances in Fritz Perls' work and then Virginia's work. Bit of a rebel. He was always looking at things differently. John Grinder, massive linguist, you know. Special operations, entering a Maasai tribe, young professor, wanting to make a difference in the world and results focused. And there's Frank, results focused. So one of the primary values of NLP, one of the primary values of NLP is results. Now, in a lot of our literature, we'll say outcomes. What do you want? Outcomes. But results, outcomes, identity, NLP, core value, results, another core value. I'm going to write this small. Responsibility. Responsibility for getting your results. Responsibility for coming here today. Responsibility. You got to take responsibility for your results. Yeah, you got to know your results you want. You got to know your outcomes. These are the core values. Another core value of NLP, wholeness. Wholeness. Okay? Another core value of NLP, ecology. Ecology. And we'll learn more about these things, but we should all know like wholeness, right? Wholeness, holistic. Ecology is checking, well, if we make this change, what about the bigger picture? So we've got wholeness, ecology, responsibility, results, know your outcome. We can leave it as that for now. So our identity, your identity, you have values. This is metaphoric. You don't actually have values. Can you see a value on me somewhere? So metaphorically speaking, we have an identity, and NLP is the identity, and NLP has values, and a business has an identity, and a business has values. A business may also have beliefs. So there's actually a structure here. We have our identity, and we have a values. And we typically put identity above values, and typically put belief under values. Reason being is that you can have them going downwards, identity, values, beliefs, but how it actually looks in real life is, I'm going to need a new board. We can take someone like Fritz Perls. Fritz Perls has values, and his values can actually surround him. His values could be health, maybe love, maybe society, maybe family, or maybe some people might say safety, feeling good. And around each of these values, so say love is a value, or being loved is a value. And around that, we have our belief system. So in order to be loved, I like to hear things. Love to me means this. Love leads to these things. Before being loved, I need this to happen. Here are examples of love. So around each value, you have the belief system. And around each of the beliefs lead you to your capabilities. But we'll just leave that there. That's the start of my favorite model. Now, rather than having this complex thing, what we actually do is we write them down as a layer. We say identity, values, beliefs. And is something above identity? Is there something bigger than us? Oh, maybe. maybe it's God, maybe it's gods, maybe it's higher consciousness. Let's just call it spirituality for now. Now, John Grinder's against this model, but this is one of my favorite models. It's the start of neurological levels. So we've got our spirit, and NLP has nothing at all to do with, well, real NLP is very little or nothing to do with any spirituality stuff. They didn't really go up there, they went down. NLP, we tended to go down on our identity, values, and beliefs. We didn't really go up. NLP is in no way affiliated or connected with any cults or religions. Cults and religions often go up. Well, that's what they do. Cults and religions go up to a spirit. What's bigger than you? Ooh, the guru. Bow down, kiss his feet. And respect as well, because there could be some amazing spirituality beliefs and gurus there. I'm just making sure you know. We have people in our courses that will be Muslim, Christian, Jehovah's Witnesses, monks, whatever. It's all cool. I, in fact, am Christian, and I coach a Muslim client to pray more and connect to. Absolutely wonderful. I was so blessed to be able to work with this man. So there we go. We have our spirit, identity, values, and beliefs. Now, when we look at NLP, the identity, NLP, the values, wholeness, ecology, responsibility, results, and a bit more. Around each of them, like results, we have beliefs. Well, we believe we want to start with the outcome in mind. We believe there's a specific way that we should define our outcomes. And we have examples of outcomes, and we know what outcomes and results lead to. So all of our values have their own belief systems. We have beliefs around wholeness. We believe that your wholeness might be different from his wholeness and different to her wholeness, and that's okay. Ecology, we have our own beliefs around that. So again, identity, values, beliefs. Up top, spirit. What's above us? My personal work, I'll go a little bit up there because I like to have people connecting to that, whatever they believe in up there. But NLP, we're predominantly focused on going down to our values and our belief systems and actually understanding each level. And it goes further down as well. But we'll catch that when it comes. I like for you to understand the identity, values, and beliefs, and this thing, it's like levels, logical levels, because it makes sense to me. So this is what I call neurological levels. Neurological levels, and if you like to learn more about that, you can check my webpage. Or simply search on the internet. Search, Google Adrian Cahill neurological levels. And it'll tell you more about this. This is good to learn at the start of NLP because we're going to be talking about values and beliefs and stuff. It might give you a bit of a head start. Or if you get to participate in the extra practice classes, it'll rock. Okay. Think we're good. So that covers the why NLP. That covers the what NLP is. That covers, as I said, some of the core values of NLP, and I believe we're probably right on time. So thank you very much. I hope you watched this diligently beforehand. I suspect you have some questions. Write them down. And then as soon as we start our session, we can get straight into your questions and get straight into the how. Or we can get straight into the next great big thing. So thank you very much for your patience. Thank you very much for returning all your paperwork and making sure your deposits or payments, whatever is taken care of. It is a blessing to have you here, and I really look forward to seeing you get to your next level soon. So I'll see you in the next practice session. Thank you.